All right, everyone, we're gonna get started in just a few seconds. I just want to make sure you all can hear me. We're just gonna do this for about 30 to 45 minutes. I know there's a lot of information on severe weather, so I kind of narrowed it down to the ones that we really kind of expect to see here in Tennessee. Because I can go on and on about severe weather. Let's see. Go ahead. Let's see. All right. I am going to have a question and answer part coming in later on. So if you want to go ahead and drop your questions into the chat, I will definitely get to all that later on. So let's go ahead and get started. I tried to make this kind of condensed, so bear with me. It's a lot of information, but I know if you have to leave, you can. This will always be on my YouTube, Facebook, and X, so you can come back later on and go back to the part you left at. So no worries about this. All right, so we are going to be looking at severe weather and understanding nature's fury. What is severe weather? Because when you think of severe weather, you just really kind of think of just tornadoes and hurricanes. So, severe weather is any dangerous meteorological phenomenon with the potential to cause damage, serious social disruption, or loss of human life. So, you might be asking, what are the types of severe weather? There's all sorts of types. Of course, what I said before is when you think of severe weather, you think of hurricanes, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, but there's a few things you really don't think. So here are a few lists. I have hurricanes, which are the like very powerful storms with devastating impacts, tornadoes, floods, blizzards, and heat waves. And there's a look. I'm not going to go one by one talking about all of these. We're going to actually go into separate ones that are mainly just for Tennessee right now. So I'm going to go to our next types as well. We got lightning, we got wildfires, we got dust storms, hailstorms, and ice storms. So there's so many different types are under severe weather. So as I said before, I'm going to really focus on ones that are here in Tennessee, since that's mainly who's all watching is those that live in Middle Tennessee. So let's start with thunderstorms. What do thunderstorms need to develop? There's several different things. They need moisture. That the moisture forms the clouds and the rain, and most of this comes up from the Gulf. Number two, unstable air, which is warm air that can rise rapidly, which will cause the clouds to also form. And then lift, which is caused by either cold or warm fronts. Cold fronts, you kind of go more toward. I know I'm throwing in a lot of meteorological terms, and there's so you can get really deep into what is a warm front, what is a cold front, and we could be here for hours talking about this. So that's why I feel like we're just going to do bare minimum right now, and then I'm going to go deeper maybe in a couple of weeks. Because in 2 weeks, I'm going to go more into radar, which is where we'll get into deeper of, I'm just doing like thunderstorm life cycle right now. And I'll show y'all in a little bit different types of thunderstorms. But when we get into the radar section, which will be in 2 weeks, I can show you a little bit more and dig a little bit more deeper on that as well. So there are three kind of stages of a thunderstorm. So the first stage, which is the development stage, which is where the clouds indicate the rising air, which is what we said was number two that we needed, unstable air, and that's rising air. in the developmental stage, there's very little, if any, rain. There's this kind of like these storms that just we call blips. As you can see on this kind of radar right here, you see this little kind of blip, and that's where it starts. Then it goes into a mature stage, which you can see here, this supercell right here, which I know this image kind of haunts people because it is where tornadoes mainly form. But this little storm right here is in its mature stage. So what is the mature stage? The mature stage is where the most hail, heavy rain, tons of lightning, strong winds, and tornadoes form. This, when a severe thunderstorm comes and it's kind of in the mature stage, or it has that greenish kind of tint to it, and of course when it gets very dark, but I feel like sometimes it has like this dark, not teal, but green, forest green kind of tint to it, and you are like, oh my goodness, something's wrong. So that's actually when the storm is in its mature stage. And this typically lasts, the cycle, storms will form about 10 minutes and then could be in a mature stage for 10 to 20 minutes, and then it dissipates, which is the next stage. And then it's an ever ending cycle. Some storms go through the cycle several times. And then there's some that completely die out after the last stage. So going back to stage 3, the dissipating stage. This is when the downdrafts become and dominate the storm, which downdrafts are basically when the wind just comes completely down and just shoots out, which I'll show y'all kind of that on the radar in 2 weeks, is where you can see, I believe I posted a picture, I want to say yesterday or the day before, where you can see the radar and it just has that kind of circle that just comes out from the storm. So that is where the downdraft happens and it just spreads out. And then basically that kills that storm. But within that, new storms can form as well. All right. So now let's go to types of thunderstorms. There are several different types. There's about 5 different types. And we are going to go through each one. Number 2, which is the multi-cell thunderstorm, which is this right here. It's just, this would not be called a squall line. It would just be several different cells within, but one big cluster. And this is typically ordinary storms with low severe threats. See, multi-cell thunderstorms are kind of like summer storms that we've kind of seen the past couple days. They just form, heavy rain, and then just drop. Tons of lightning. So you typically see multi-cell thunderstorms during the summer. But you also can see single cell thunderstorm, which is our next little storm. So these 2 types right here are typically what we're going to be seeing for the next month. Next one is what we call a squall line, which is this little guy right here. And this is kind of what we see, I want to say mainly into, when we have our second tornado season in November and December and January. This is kind of what we really see. And in those, in the squall line is mainly a damaging wind threats, just because of how the wind is pushing out. You can see how it's all kind of that backward C. So that's the wind just pushing it out. So that is where the damaging winds. But we also can have tornadoes, which you'll hear meteorologists say QLSC, which is quasi-linear convection system, which is basically squall line. But you will hear those tornadoes, which are the very quick spin up tornadoes, the ones that are low rating. Now we're going to get down to our supercells, which you can see right here. We have three different types. We have the one which is the classic supercell, which you see in textbooks, and with the little hook arrow, hook echo, and all where the tornado would be. Then you have this little one right here, which is the low precip, which you really, that's where it's basically, what's the name? Low precip means not very heavy rain. You actually really, that's the one you really kind of want to be, you could be around because you can really see the updraft, and those actually form the best structure in photos because you can see the whole storm. I should have found a picture to do with that. I'm probably will, I'm going to do a lot of this more in detail when we do our radar weather workshop and all. And then our last one right here, can y'all guess? It's high precip, which means basically what it says, very heavy rainfall. And this is the one where if there is a tornado warning on it, you won't see the tornado. That's where we would say the tornado is rain wrapped. All right, now let's go back into severe thunderstorms. When the National Weather Service, whoever is on radar, watches a storm, they follow the storm after every radar loop. They are looking at this again, is what I'll be showing y'all a little bit more on our radar workshop, is how you can see these things. This is what the National Weather Service looks at. There are several criterias because they can look at, on radar you can find so many different things. You can look at whether the hail is falling, heavy the rain, where the winds are twisting, all sorts of stuff. But when the National Weather Service watches a storm, if they see on radar that the storm has winds that are 30 to 57 mile per hour, that is when they issue a special weather statement, which is the first step to a severe thunderstorm warning. A severe thunderstorm warning is basically, the definition is basically a thunderstorm that has 58 mile per hour winds or greater and 1 inch hail or greater in that storm. When it meets one of those criteria, that's when the National Weather Service issues a severe thunderstorm warning. What is kind of new is, I know back several years ago, we just had severe thunderstorm warning, we just had tornado warning. We didn't even have special weather statements. Now there are 3 tiers of each severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning, which I'll talk about the tornado warning ones later. But the basic 3 tiers are this: your basic severe thunderstorm warning, which is 58 mile per hour winds or 1 inch hail. When you go to considerable, that's when either the hail is around 2 inches or the wind is almost to 70 miles per hour. There's different really criterias, and I think it really differs with the office on which one and which they want, if they want to do considerable or destructive. Destructive is, goodness, destructive is what we had in Hendersonville. Oh my gosh, I can't remember when it was. It was earlier this year where everyone thought it was a tornado that touched down, but it was 90 mile per hour wind gusts. If I'm remembering correctly, the National Weather Service issued a destructive severe thunderstorm warning for that, with a tornado warning on top of it as well, which you could do both, because the top part could be just warned for the severe thunderstorm with the winds, and then the bottom part, which is where the hook echo and everything was in the rotation, is a tornado, which I'll explain more of that on radar. A lot of this you can really explain more with radar, which I know I could be here for hours talking about that. But as the storm grows and continues, the National Weather Service will look for rotation in the storm. And if there's lower level rotation, or someone that's emergency management, police, or fire department, or just T-spotters, storm chasers are out there and they report in on the chat, or they call into the office saying, hey, we have a funnel cloud forming, that is when a tornado warning is issued. So now that we talked about severe thunderstorm warning and severe thunderstorms, let's go what can be caused with a severe thunderstorm. Tornadoes. See, when the tornado warning is issued, right here is a funnel cloud, which is the rotating column of air formed by a cloud but does not reach the ground. So that's typically when a tornado warning is issued. As I said before, that's what we really look for when issuing a warning, because it means I'll go over the difference between watch and warning later on. But then here is a tornado, which is, of course, the same thing as a funnel cloud, but touching the ground. And this is where I believe it started mid last year, where they were all doing 3 types of severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings. So the 3 types of tornado warnings are your basic, which is radar indicated, which is basically, okay, a funnel cloud is being saw, or a wall cloud. It's right there, but it's not touching the ground. So that's the basic tornado warning that is going, it's getting ready to drop. But if the storm will drop, the tornado is up to the storm. Then once the tornado is on the ground and it's doing pretty big damage, which is when they upgrade it to radar confirm or spotter confirm, or PDS, which is particularly dangerous situation tornado warning. And then the last one is tornado emergency, which is when a tornado is a very strong tornado and is headed for a big city. For example, a tornado emergency was issued for Hendersonville with that tornado in December. I want to, goodness, I feel like it was so long ago. But the National Weather Service issued a tornado emergency right after a tornado was going down Main Street in Hendersonville. All right. I know a lot of people have asked about ratings for tornadoes and when that happens, and why can't we go ahead and predict what the rating is while the tornado is happening. Because on radar we can see like gate to gate, like how, like if it's showing towards the radar winds are 100 and away or 50, we can kind of guess how strong the winds are. But what they really look at for ratings is how much damage. And we like to say, I know sometimes we can say, for sure it was a tornado on the ground, for sure this, but you really can't decipher if it was fully a tornado, even if there's photos. Yes, I know. Most people are like, you can see it, it's clearly on the ground. The only time we can confirm really that it was a tornado is when the National Weather Service does. And the National Weather Service typically goes the day after the tornado or the suspect damage occurs. And when they go there, they go through, there's a whole thing that they go through, but the basic is they look at the damage of a house, like how the house was built, how was any of the structures that were hit built, how was the foundation, how was this, like they go on to detailed, especially if the rating is going to be around EF3, EF4, EF5 range. And because I know there was a tornado, I want to say it was North Dakota or South Dakota last week, where several pictures of just foundations were left, like the house was completely gone. And people are like, that's got to be EF5, EF4. I believe the rating ended up being EF3. And that was because of how the house was built. So there's a lot more that they go into on, like, was the house fully in the tornado? Was it just sideswept? Like, there's so much information that goes into where it takes like a whole day for them to to look into stuff, but sometimes it even takes a week for them. I know the stronger tornadoes, it normally takes a week or so because you talk to insurance people, you talk to all sorts of people. All right. Let's go to what is the difference between watch and warning, because I do believe several people do get confused on a tornado watch, a severe thunderstorm watch, a severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning, winter weather warning, all these flood watch, etc., etc. The National Weather Service issues, I believe, over 160 something different types of warnings, which I believe they are trying to kind of narrow it down a little bit. But what is a watch? A watch is basically when conditions are favorable for severe weather. So, tornado watch. Okay, the conditions are ready and ripe for a tornado to happen. Will it happen? Depends. But everything is there. Watch typically lasts an hour, several hours. Because y'all have seen before when we had a severe thunderstorm watch, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. It was to like 2 a.m., but it was gone till like we were canceled out of it by 10 p.m. So typically they go about 3 to 6 hours. It really depends on the timing of the storms. And it covers a huge area, several states. Like one of the watches last week or the week before covered most of Middle Tennessee. And so basically during a watch you want to be aware and just weather aware, monitoring radar, just get ready, get your things ready. And a cool kind of tidbit is watches are typically issued by the National Weather Service over in Norman, which is kind of the headquarters, the Storm Prediction Center over there. They are the ones that issue the watches. The warnings, which are it's occurring the funnel, like I said earlier, the funnel cloud is coming down or is forming. That's when they issue the warning. It's when it's happening. Take action. And warnings typically sometimes could be 30 to 60 minutes long. It really depends on how fast the storm is moving. Like a couple weeks ago, one of the National Weather Service meteorologists had the warning for an hour because of how slow it was moving, but he wanted to get it because of how damaging the winds were. He wanted to get the warning ahead of time. And sometimes they even do it if the storm is going really fast. They make bigger warning areas because warnings go into like a smaller area. Like they sometimes they can cover a whole county. Sometimes they only do part of a county. Like a couple when we had tornado warnings after tornado warnings, like 5 tornado warnings, like one after another that night. That was insane. Like it was all for lower part of Sumner County. And then of course one of the tornado warnings had to happen up in Portland. So in middle Sumner County was blessed and didn't have any damage at all. So a little kind of funny that I found is like a cupcake watch. You have all the ingredients ready. Warning, your cupcake's done, ready to eat. And for those that love tacos, right here, you have the ingredients ready to make tacos. So that's your taco watch. And then the taco warning is you have your taco ready to eat. And that's making me hungry right now. All right, now that we've already talked about severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, what other damage and severe weather is there? We got lightning, we got hail, we got flooding, and we got wind damage. Lightning. I really wanted to focus a little bit on, I was going to just do severe thunderstorms and tornadoes and hurricanes, but I really wanted to talk about lightning, especially with these summer pop-ups, because lightning is a huge issue with these summer pop-up storms. And lightning. So, what causes thunder and lightning? Lightning is the electrical discharge caused by buildup of static energy in the clouds. And there are three ways lightning can do, three types. We got cloud to ground lightning, which is, some people are like, oh, on radar we see a positive strike or a negative strike. So, cloud to ground is negative. And sometimes you can see where lightning jumps from cloud to cloud. So that's the cloud to cloud lightning. And then we have the intra cloud, which is where it's actually 2 points between the same cloud, which is very, I feel like the one that's the most common is cloud to cloud. But a positive lightning strike is actually when it comes from the ground and then goes up to the cloud, which is, I believe I saw something that said that's like only 2% of lightning strikes is positive strikes. So that's very rare. And I believe, I don't want to say that's the most deadliest one because I saw something that also said if only like 7%, like if you do 7% of the people that get struck by lightning live. And I know the past week or so, there's been several injuries and deaths of lightning. Um, my mom just got back from Pensacola a week or so ago with her friends, and there was a storm that came in, and I believe it's Navarre Beach, just like right to the east of Pensacola. And there's a guy and his wife there on their honeymoon, and the guy got struck by lightning and passed away. So, one of those things with lightning is, what is the most dangerous time for lightning? And I've really searched on that, and most studies say the worst or the most dangerous time for lightning is right before the storm comes and right after. Like when the storm's right on top of you, yes, you can still get struck by lightning, but because if you're out on the beach or golf course or out in the park and you hear thunder, you know that saying, when you hear thunder, go indoors. Because lightning can strike up to, gosh, 10 plus miles away from the storm. So that's a huge thing I wanted to really touch on with lightning is, I know I'm on when I post something that says, okay, this watching the storm come in. Typically when I post, hey, there's a storm coming in the next hour, I want y'all to go ahead and get off of that golf course or get indoors away from windows, because lightning can and probably will strike out far out. And also, like, after the storm passes, there's a thing that says even when the storm has passed, you want to wait 30 minutes, because you know how a ball game, a sports game, is delayed every time a lightning strikes. It's because it could. I know they had a 3+ hour or 4 hour delay in Omaha there in the College World Series because there was lightning all around. But when you look at the radar, the storm was far away. But they had safety in place because the lightning could strike back. I wish I had that graphic that shows a little timeline of before, like the storm being a certain miles away on top of you, and then certain miles away from you, and it like kind of shows where lightning can strike out. And I think I actually posted a picture a while ago on socials that showed a storm headed into Sumner, but a lightning strike was on radar, which is another thing we can look at on radar as well. And it was like in Gallatin, but the storm was still in Goodlettsville or something like that. So, sure. I did take notes on things to say, but I feel like I could be here for hours just talking about storms and severe weather. All right, let's go to hail. All righty. Hail Actually, I believe in summertime, hail is not. I know with some of the storms that we've had, hail has been showing up on radar, but the main thing for hail or for summer storms is lightning and heavy downpours, which we'll talk about flooding and all. But what is hail? Hail is a form or preset consistent balls or lumps. They're all not really. I call it sonic ice just because sometimes it really does look like sonic ice. But they are formed when super cooled water droplets in a thunderstorm freeze and then accumulate layers of ice as they carry up and down the storm updrafts. So I wish I had that. I couldn't find it, but it's like a little GIF or a little video, and it shows the hailstone going up and down this cloud and growing bigger and bigger and bigger until it's heavy enough just to fall. And here's a little guide. I know a lot of y'all here at National Weather Service, us on T spotters when we do live streams, or TV meteorologists say hail size like pea size hail, dime, nickel, quarter, golf ball. I kind of wanted to show y'all. Sometimes y'all could be like, okay, seriously, like a pea size, like how big really is that? Yes, you can look at a pea and see, but here's kind of a little guide on what. Can you imagine a softball size hail storm just coming down? That would basically just destroy your car. I want to say the record. I'm gonna look it up. Some don't want to get it wrong, but I believe the record hailstone or hail size. Let's see. The largest hailstone ever recorded was July 23rd, 2010, in South Dakota, and it measured 8 inches. Good grief. 8 inches. You know, when we all, us T spotters, always ask, hey, when there's hail, how do you let us know and tell us how big it is? And but most people don't know how to measure it. So that's why I have this little picture right here on the best way to measure hail. Is getting a yardstick or measuring stick, whatever, and just putting the hailstorm stones right there, which I really should have asked the National Weather Service and asked what the biggest hailstone in Tennessee is, because we don't get 4 inches much. A lot of the bigger size hails are normally over in Kansas, Texas, North Dakota, South Dakota, all that area. But when ST spotters ask for like the help reference, the help with the National Weather Service saying, hey, we got dime size and other ways, because we get smaller size hail, you can also pay them with coins like quarter, nickel, dime, and penny. You can always put those beside the hailstones as well, and then take a picture and then send it to us. So I know I've said that on our live stream several before, but I was like, I don't think I've really kind of explained well on how to get it measured, because that helps a little bit more than getting a tweet or Facebook post saying, hey, we had nickel size hail. But the thing is, are they really measured? And if we say that, of course, the National Weather Service looks at radar too, because on radar you can actually see where the hail is falling as well, and if it's a and not kind of a size, but not fully, because you never know until we get pictures from you all that send to the National Weather Service and say, hey, the hail is actually falling, because radar can say, hey, there's hail forming, but is it completely hitting the ground? That's where the public comes in and says, hey, the hail is actually falling. So then we can tell the National Weather Service, hey, they are getting reports. So radar's correct. All right. I did not realize that had noise. That scared the crap out of me. Flooding. That is a huge thing I want to talk about as well, is flooding, because flooding is another thing that is really big with these summer storms. Lightning as well. That is why I kind of really wanted to focus on stuff that we'll be getting here in Tennessee, and especially over the summer. So, flash flooding occurs when a large amount of rain comes down in a very short time period. And most of the time, the water doesn't have place, like rivers and lakes get so overflooded. There's no, because we all know Main Street floods right over there, and Stop 30 Road always, around Drake's Creek always floods. Even if there's 2 inches of rain that fall down, it always floods. So most of the storms, I believe the past week or so, have been doing about an inch and a half to 2 inches an hour rate. And with how slow the storms are, that's, and I feel like with summer storms or flooding can really occur just because the storms are slow, or they're just very stationary and these are dumping rain. I know I have a guy that I'm sure you all seen on Facebook that loves taking photos and of the storms and all, and I just love seeing his photos because you can see just that little storm far off and how the rain shafts just pour down. You can just see where it's just pouring. And I believe, I want to say that storm yesterday was doing about an inch, 1.4 rainfall rating. But of course, as each radar scans, it can always be updated, lessened, because these storms, they intensify very quickly, and then they rain heavily for 30 minutes and then just die out, which I feel like, I see yesterday or the day before, I kept posting, hey, this storm's coming in, and it's like right by Davidson or Robertson line with Sumner, the storms would just die out. And I was like, I'm just gonna keep saying watching these storms, because as soon as they hit that county line, they just die. All right. Another thing we're going to talk about is wind damage. I know I don't have any words on here, but talking about wind damage is, wind damage actually, I talked about earlier with the squall line. So this is kind of what really happens mainly with squall lines, is you can have tree damage or falling on power lines. Like earlier this, or earlier last week, we had a storm that caused several power lines around Bethpage down. And I shared all of that and put it into National Weather Service. So wind damage, I believe, gets kind of confused with tornadoes, as I said earlier. Whenever that big storm came, I believe it was earlier this year, where everyone's like, it had to be a tornado because of the damage. Wind damage can do a little bit more, because I believe even in the National Weather Service reports, they put where they put the damage was equaled up to a EF1 damage, just because of, so wind damage, when straight line winds come in, they can do as much damage as a EF0, EF1, even EF2 damage of a tornado. So that's why when we, especially like when we have considerable or destructive severe thunderstorm warnings, that's why when we say, okay, you need to take cover, especially with those tags on it, if it's 70 mile per hour or higher, that's when we say, hey, get away from windows, get in the middle, kind of take it like a tornado warning because as I said before, the damage can equal up to a low end tornado. All right. I know we don't really want to talk about this right now, but I kind of do because I'm already tired of this hot weather. It's our 1 weekend, and I'm like, give me fall weather because I'm tired of this 90 degrees. So let's talk about winter storm so we can hope for fall and winter to come quickly. So we have 30 different types of winter storms. Winter storms basically are snow, ice, sleet, freezing rain, all the above. All that is what is in consider for a winter storm. So of course of course we are back to our watches, advisories, and warnings. So once again, watches are the conditions are favorable, but advisories are I know I got this from the National Weather Service. I don't know if this is I know it says Illinois because I love but I don't know if it's the same for Tennessee because I couldn't really find anything on Nashville's office with it. But I do believe these are the same criterias for all the like all of the United States. So when we do get issued a winter weather advisory, it could mean up to one or more of the following: sleet, freezing rain, blowing snow, or snow 3 to 5 inches, which that's one that we barely really get. I believe the advisories are mainly because of our freezing rain and sleet that we normally get, and ice, of course, which I feel like we always tend to get that ice. But I'm not really going to go kind of deep into it. I just want to show y'all differences. The main thing is watches, advisories, and warnings. All right. We're kind of changing a little bit of severe. We're still talking about severe weather, but I want to. How do you prepare for severe weather? And what apps do you look at? Like checklists, what you need to do for severe weather when it's incoming. Because we did talk about all sorts of different severe weather types. So a few days out has with radar and forecasting, the National Weather Service can see weeks in advance. Hey, there is a system coming, but timing gets better the closer we get. So when you're a few days out from either a severe weather outbreak of thunderstorms or tornado, well, I'm not going to really say tornado outbreak because some people, you really don't know that until the day before. But once you're a few days out, you need to make sure you have your emergency supplies. So make sure you have batteries, water, have all the documents. Like one of my friends who has a storm shelter in her house, she has a little kind of not Tupperware, but like plastic box thing, and she always has like a gallon of water in it. She has a folder with all the important stuff where she only puts the important documents and passports and all that in it a couple days before. She has those crackers, peanut butter crackers, just snacks that don't need to be in a refrigerator or anything, batteries for flashlights, helmets, all the emergency supplies, shoes, socks, just to get ready. Make sure you know where your safe places are. I know I like to do a thing before we have a severe weather event. I like to do live streams so I can let y'all know, hey, this is the best 4 safe places. This is so know your safe places. If you're in a apartment, which is kind of really the most difficult one because I'm in a two second floor apartment, and the best thing for me is to know the people below me and get to their bathrooms or A lot of people do bathrooms because most of the time bathrooms are in the middle of the house plan and all. But you want to get to the innermost part of your house or basement if you have a basement, or storm shelter if you have a storm shelter. So just have knowledge of where you're going to go when the day arrives. Have a family communication plan. That's a huge thing because I know if a tornado does hit, phone lines are out. Because I remember with the Hendersonville tornado, I coming out of the store area after the tornado hit it, coming out, I had to call my mom and say, "Hey, was in a tornado," and I called her. All I got in before phones were completely gone was I was in the tornado. So she didn't know. Kind of long story short is they didn't know what to do because we didn't really plan on it. And that's where now, if it happens again, I can be like, hey, I can meet y'all at this place. Or because, well, I had an issue because my car was damaged and it was not able to, I couldn't drive all the way to Murfreesboro. So just have a communication plan. Be like, okay, the tornado hits, and have a place to meet up. Have just where you'll be like, okay, because since phones aren't going to be working, if they do work, be like, text and say, I'm okay. Or just, hey, we'll be at our neighbors if the neighbors didn't get hit too, or somewhere close by, or even like Walmart down the street, or anywhere to have a meeting place the day before. So this is when forecasting accuracy continues to improve. So this is where timing gets a little bit better. And this is when like the National Weather Service sends out those little graphics that say, okay, the best timing for severe weather is 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. or the latest, the earliest, etc. This is when you need to adjust your plans. Like, okay, we got Susie has ballet lessons and Johnny has soccer lessons. But so if hopefully those don't go on if it's going to be a really big, severe event. But if you are going to be out and about, be like, okay, so we're going to adjust the plan. We're not going to be at home, but we're going to be at the dance studio. So within the dance studio, what's your plan where you go if a tornado warning happens? Make sure your phone can receive the weather emergency alerts, which I have included down here, and I always include that on the Q&As before severe thunderstorms, before the events, the day before. Yes, you can always, wherever you go to get your Amber Alerts, that is basically where you go to enable it. I have the iPhone and Android, of course. I always post that when we are expecting severe weather. And Stormwatch Plus is another app that I like because that will keep you updated on stuff. Okay, also ensure if you have a storm shelter or you're under the stairs or bathroom or wherever you plan to make your safe place, make sure it's clean and be ready because once a tornado warning is issued, you're going to have very little time to get into that spot. So you don't need it to be crowded or with spiders or whatever. You are going to have it ready to go. So the day of, this is when, okay, day of, let's go. This is when you got to remind, hey, our communication plan, if it gets separated, we're going to meet here. Know how to evac and how to get safely to wherever your safe place is. And be weather aware. If it's a all day event or certain time, always be on your phone getting ready for. Have radars up. Of course, when in 2 weeks when we go over radar, because I feel like a lot of people don't know how to read radar. So I kind of wish I would was doing radar today because I could talk so much more about radar. I feel like that's where I'm more knowledgeable about is, and that's where I was getting my degree in meteorology and everything. I was really on with severe weather and radar. That's my expertise right there. When so that I feel like when people know how to read the radar, and that's when the storm anxiety calms down, and hey, on radar it's moving this fast, so it's going to hit us in 30 minutes. Like you can really gauge out, okay, I got plenty of time to do this, or all right, gather up the kids. We're ready. We're watching the news. We're watching the T Spotters live stream. We're watching this. We're ready in case a warning is issued. Because you may only have seconds to act. Another thing is, if you have a lot nowadays, you can get like TV, YouTube, or TV on your phone. So sometimes, even when us typically Tennesseans, we get severe weather at nighttime. So that's where I always, sometimes I even spend the night in my little room. That's my storm shelter. I mean, it's right where that's another thing is when I do radar, I'll show you all my little setup as well. Um, I'm going to show y'all like where my safe place is, which is like right behind my desk. So, and we're under the staircase because it's the most inner part of my apartment. So I'll be able to show you all that and how quickly I basically kind of just slept in my chair, or I really didn't sleep because I was watching the weather, but I was ready to go. But if you have a storm shelter, sometimes it is best to just stay in your storm shelter, especially like an hour before the storm hits to when it passes. All right. Now we were talking about nighttime because typical Tennessee always gets nighttime. Here's the checklist, which is basically the same thing. Is have your weather radio ready to go before going to sleep. How I know I posted a long time ago the link for Amazon for the weather radios. I also believe Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, and I want to say there are several others that carry the white NOAA weather radios. And I know several of my viewers have said, "Oh, we got it when you said it," and it's worked great. I know if you had issues setting it up, so if y'all do end up getting the weather radio and need help setting it up, please let me know. I will definitely help y'all out through that. Make sure your phone is charged, which you should, especially the day of. Make sure your phone's been charged because when electricity goes out and your phone's on 5%, that's not going to help really contact your family. So that's another reason why with family communication plan is know when if your phone goes dead, know where to meet up. Safety plans ready up. You already did that. Flashlight, pair of shoes, extra clothes. That's basically like a few days out. Helmet, make sure it's all in a container and ready to go. All right. That is the end of. I know I went by very quickly. I can spend hours going into detail on severe weather, but I really wanted to just focus on things that Tennessee really got and Middle Tennessee gets. Because if we do get heat waves, and we're kind of in a heat wave, but the heat wave basically is out west. And of course, dust storms are out there too. And so I really just wanted to focus on a few main things because a lot of people were like, okay, talking about like tornadoes and severe thunderstorms, like they really didn't understand what they were. And I wanted to go a little deeper into that. So go ahead if y'all have any questions. I can always go back into the slideshow, or if y'all have questions on severe weather, questions what I do, anything, shoot them in the chat. It's like, I hope I explained. I know I probably rushed a little bit because I know we've been doing this for almost an hour, but I feel like, once again, there's so much you can talk about, and it's like a fire hose kind of spraying information out at you all. But once again, you can all, this will be on all my social medias, so you can always go back. But I don't. I try to do a good time for everybody to be able to. I might ask for our. I know a lot of people were more excited about the radar. I thought radar would actually win our very first weather workshop thing, but severe, because radar actually was in the lead for a while, and then severe weather just took off, and I was like, well, to really understand the radar, you need to understand severe weather too. So I'm really excited about doing the radar in 2 weeks for you all. It's like I'm not seeing any questions or anything, so I'm gonna look and see because I don't know if the chat is working. So let's see if I. I don't see any questions. I feel like I've kind of covered. I mean, I feel like I covered most of it pretty well. I really wanted to go deeper into it, but we'll be, once again, we'll be here all night talking about it, and I don't think you'll want to hang out with me for 3+ hours. I know we've done it before with severe weather, but once again, if there ever is a question about severe weather that comes up or anything, you could always message me on any of the social medias or anything, any question about weather radios or severe weather or radars. I will post the thing probably, I want to say, in the next couple of days about the radar workshop and what questions y'all have, because I do know a few people wanted to know which weather apps I use and which weather program, radar programs I use when I'm doing the live streams. So, all right. Well, I know it's 9 o'clock. It's almost ready for bed. I got to get to work. So, hope y'all have a good rest of y'all's Sunday and a great week ahead. We are, believe, let me see if I can show y'all real quick. We'll do a little bit of radar looking right now. I can show y'all what the next couple days are going to look like. Since the 00, that's another thing I'll talk about when we do radar, is I'll talk about all the different weather models as well. So I'm going to show y'all the live radar real quick, which I know there was a few pop-up showers that were supposed to come in overnight, but they're not looking much right now. So yay, we'll see if that continues, but here we go. I'm gonna go back to the 00Z because that'll be able to give us a little bit more hours. So here was 8 o'clock, so 9 o'clock. So it does show some pop-ups. So if you do hear some rumbles of thunder overnight, I wouldn't be surprised. But once again, it's those summer pop-up showers. So looks like 1 a.m. is a couple more, and then 6 a.m. some, and then looks like tomorrow. Here's tomorrow at 2 p.m. So it looks like big cluster of storms is going to be down here, and then tomorrow night about 8, it looks like some more pop-ups. It looks like a line of storms will be coming in July 1st. So we'll see. We do have chances of rain every day this week except for Friday. So I do believe 4th of July will be a clear and perfect day for fireworks. But don't hold me to that. As soon as I say that, there's going to be a storm that pops up right in time for fireworks. I think it was last year. No, because Hendersonville didn't do fireworks last year, I don't think. But they did them a couple of years ago, and there was a storm right by, and I need to find that picture again because I took a picture of a firework and lightning strike at the same time. It was one of my favorite photos I got. But I'll have to post that for the happy 4th of July thing. But another thing, real quick, is I'm going to be out of town, well, out of Sumner County this week. So if we do get a severe thunderstorm warning, I will try to go live. If not, I'll be tweeting, doing social posts nonstop because I won't be at home and I won't have my screens. I will try my best, but I won't be back in Sumner County probably till Saturday at most. So just a heads up on that. But all right, I'm headed off to bed. Well, not bed, work. I want to go to bed, but I gotta go to work. Hope you have a good rest of y'all's night. Have a great and safe 4th of July. Of course, I'll be posting nonstop. I'm actually about to do a post on my website. I know I haven't done it lately, but I'm going to do a post on that and email. So if y'all haven't checked out the website, please do. I've been updating, and I don't know if y'all noticed, I've kind of updated my cover photos on Facebook and X. So I'm trying to rearrange some graphic stuff. So I'm excited about that. I'm about to upgrade the website once again. So, and I'm going to try and figure out how I can do a live radar on my website. So all you have to do is go to the website to see live radar. So looking forward